Hello, everybody, and welcome to week 2 and chapter 2 of my book, Turn Your Magic All the Way Up, A Ridiculous Guide to Discovering Yourself After Narcissistic Abuse. Available on Amazon. I'll put that link in my description below. It's available Kindle, paperback, or audiobook, or you can just tune in here once a week and I'll read you a free chapter and you can just get it for free. But I also want you to know that I wrote this book with an accompanying playlist. That's on Spotify, and I will also put the Spotify link in the description below as well. Okay, here we go. Chapter 2. Let's Talk Narcissists. Song Someone to Fix by Kenny Chesney. Narcissism itself is not a diagnosis, it's a personality trait. The definition of narcissistic personality disorder, NPD, as classified in the DSM-5, states that those with NPD are characterized by an exaggerated sense of self-importance, a need for admiration, and, this is the important part, a lack of empathy for other people. That lack of empathy is what allows them to damage others with no remorse whatsoever. These people are dangerous and incredibly damaging. My story started back in 2006 when I named myself Vapid Narcissist online as a joke before I even knew what a narcissist was. My mom watched a ton of Law and Order when she lived with me in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They would often refer to their perpetrators as vapid narcissists for some reason. It happened often enough for it to become a joke between us that each time they caught someone on any other episode, one of us would joke, "Oh, I bet he's a vapid narcissist." So I cleverly gave myself an email, Twitter, and Instagram handle of Vapid Narcissist, having literally no idea what the definition of a narcissist really was. I believe that I had, in that instant, unknowingly poked fate in the eye by making light of something that should be taken very seriously and sadly is not. Fate was about to teach me a hard lesson, or 3. Life lesson number 2, don't tempt fate, and never say never. What can be said about NPD and narcissists that hasn't already been said? When I speak of narcs, I am referring to those who I feel have undiagnosed NPD. There's more of it in the world than ever, and people are starting to finally wake up to that fact. Just look at the explosion of TikTok and YouTube videos about it. The word itself does not convey the terror it instills in those of us who have lived through a real-life experience with one or more of these damaging monsters. The word itself is not respected as it truly should be. I feel we should just call them sociopaths or psychopaths because those words still command the respect that they are due. Or we can just label them abusers because that's exactly what they are. I heard a psychologist somewhere say that the only thing keeping a real sociopathic antisocial personality disorder, ASPD, level narcissist from just murdering people they didn't like was only the fear of being ostracized by society. That's it. Otherwise, they do it. But narcs need society to fuel their tank, to fuel their narcissistic supply by giving them attention. So prison just won't do for the truly evil. They will need to find a way to fit in because prison equals no narcissistic supply. Otherwise, they'd just as soon burn your storage unit down rather than let you just walk away if you're trying to leave them. Hi, narc number 1. Start viewing narcissists on a spectrum, with the 0 mark being a psychopathic narcissist. The 25% mark is a sociopathic narcissist. The 50% mark would be a healthy and balanced individual. The 75% mark would be a codependent, and the 100% on the opposite side would be an unaware empath. Every one of us falls somewhere on that spectrum. Ideally, we all want to be a healthy and balanced individual, which is right in the center. A healthy combination of both sides of the spectrum. You don't have to be psychopathic to be a narcissist. and you don't have to be sociopathic to do real damage to someone. However, the farther down on the narcissism spectrum you go, the more dangerous the individual is. Unaware empaths are all the way on the opposite side of the spectrum from psychopaths. These types of people take on the emotions of others, have zero boundaries, and end up losing themselves completely, which is just as unhealthy as being psychopathic. The only difference is that an unaware empath is dangerous to themselves, while a psychopath is dangerous to society. Please see my sketchy drawing of said spectrum for reference. Here is my sketchy drawing that you get to see as a much better version than the one in the book. So as you can see, hopefully this shows up the right way, because right now it's backwards for me. But psychopathic over here, sociopathic, 100%, codependent, unaware empath. Hope you like my artwork. Here's the version of it in the book. Song I Laugh at Myself by Blue October. There are varying degrees of severity on the narcissism spectrum, and each narc is different, with different quirks and different weapons in their arsenal, but they do all follow a certain pattern of manipulative behavior that is truly abhorrent. They all follow the love bomb, devaluation, discard cycle of a relationship, and will continue that pattern for their entire lives, one toxic relationship after the next. During the love bombing, they woo you with gifts and attention and find out everything about you that you've ever wanted, and they pretend to be that for you. They convince you that you found your soulmate. At any given time, once they feel they have their teeth in you, then they start testing boundaries and devaluing you. Suddenly, you aren't as wonderful as they thought you were, and they start mocking you or ignoring you or purposely start arguments. They cheat, they lie, they purposely gaslight you and have you walking around on eggshells. In the discard phase, they frequently recruit quote-unquote flying monkeys, which are friends and sometimes your relatives, to buy their false side of the story where you are painted to be the monster. Just ask any of their victims. We all have incredibly similar stories that include triangulation, the smear campaign, the attempts to hoover you back to them like a vacuum cleaner, and so much more. They all follow the same patterns of abuse and manipulation, all of them. To win their next victim over, a love bombing looks something like this. They swoop in and move way too fast, promising you that they've never met anyone that's as perfect a match for them as you are. They're thoughtful and bring gifts. They tend to overshare their trauma stories early to get you wanting to help them and to feel bad for them, never catching a break in life, quote unquote. This is called creating a trauma bond, and those are hard to break. They want to spend all their free time with you, and if you're a codependent like me, you're going to feel heard and seen for the very first time. It's all very exhilarating and hard to resist if you've been starved for attention and seeking validation. If something seems too good or is moving too fast, chances are that you in danger, girl. This is love bombing at its finest. Always remember life lesson number 1. Trust your gut. If it feels a little bit off, take more than a step back. Perhaps throw a boundary out there and see how they react. If you set a boundary, such as asking a narc to slow down, chances are excellent that they will revolt when the correct response would be compassion, understanding, and allowing you space. A boundary test is an excellent early detection skill to use if you have suspicions about your new potential partner. How they respond is telling. Pay attention. Society tends to equate a narc with an egomaniac. It's not that cut and dry, folks. Victims will tell you it's the manipulation and the lack of empathy, not the ego, that marks a narc a narc. A master manipulator, indeed they are, no matter which part of the spectrum or which cluster B personality disorder in the DSM-5 they fall under. It's not about vanity or ego as much as it is the damage they do to the ones who love them behind closed doors. It's their insidious and relentless breaking down of your self-esteem and your sanity that causes real damage to the soul. Narcissists are more prevalent than I ever thought, especially in Southern California. Fucking duh, right? I bet there are a lot of people who were awake to this little tidbit of information already. Holy shit. When I moved out here, I was so naive. I'm being nice to my inner child when I look back and get angry that I fell for it. It was her innocent search for love and validation that got me in those messes, but she didn't know any better and thought everyone was ultimately a good and honest person. Poor sweet baby girl, and bless her little pea-picking heart. We know better now, don't we? Song, All I Know So Far by Pink. The experts estimate that a mere 6% of the population has narcissistic personality disorder, NPD. I am highly skeptical of that very low number. Perhaps that's how many have been diagnosed, but rarely will a narc enter therapy, and if they do go, they certainly won't be honest about themselves. If they do go, it's usually with the motive to gain knowledge on how to abuse without getting caught. Certainly not to admit fault or help the relationship in any way. It's always going to be your fault. It's best you remember that and walk away when you can. I suspect that the percentage of NPD in the world is closer to 20%, not 6%. Side note, I'm now upping that to 50%. My naive little heart was about to learn a hard lesson. There are predator personalities out there who are absolutely scanning for prey at all times. And you need to be aware so you can see them and avoid them at all costs. I wasn't. I paid a steep price for that error. You need to be in good mental shape if you want to play games with a narc. They can out-manipulate you, so they automatically win. They go for the kindest, most big-hearted, and best people and abuse them in the worst possible ways. They love nothing more than outfoxing you, pulling the wool over your eyes, fooling you into believing their false reality. They try to maim you, hobble you, control you just enough to keep you with them so that they can play with you all they want as a constant source of narcissistic supply to feed their emptiness. If you want to get away from them, you've got to break completely free of them and run without looking back. With one of these individuals, you've got to be strong enough to go zero contact once you finally do get away. When that happens, they aren't in control anymore. You are. They aren't hurting you anymore. You're taking that ability away from them. You see, you can't play a game you will never know the rules to, folks. The narc changes them daily, so they will always be in his or her favor. When you finally exit, stay exited. It's the only way, no matter how painful, no matter how much they beg or promise to change, they won't. No matter the hoovering techniques, no matter how much they say they love you, they don't. No matter how much you love the idea of them and know how beautiful they could be, if only they'd stop it. Zero contact. They aren't listening to you. They simply don't care, and they will never change. You're wasting your precious time, energy, and love. Save it for someone who sees you as an equal partner, as a human being who deserves it, and run. Save yourself. If you can't completely get away, or if you share custody of your kids, the advice is to go gray rock. Be unemotional like a gray rock is. Don't let them stir up any emotion in you at all. Stay bland and dull and boring. Stick to just the facts, straight face, don't argue, state your case, and then remove yourself from their presence as quickly as you can. Boundaries, friend. Have them, and for your own sake, stick to them. Narcs will try to trample all over them, and if you're a doormat like I was, and like my mom was, you will let them. Once they trample one boundary, the others fall fast. Learn what boundaries are and hold on to them. This is important. I didn't know what they were, so how could I have them? Do not waver. And if your friend, family, or significant other tramples on your boundaries and doesn't feel bad about it in the least, run. Over the last 3 years, I've learned too much too fast. It's been a warp speed crash course in childhood trauma, shadow and inner child work, narcissism, codependency, empaths, cluster B personality disorders, drugs, both prescription and not, addiction, and spiritual awakenings. It's part of why I felt the need to write a book. I feel there are people out there who need to read some of these crazy stories of mine because I know that they can relate, and I know that they need some hope. Like Lisa said, there was no one out there for her when she was going through narcissistic abuse recovery, so she became what she had needed. She wants to help others so they don't suffer for as long as she had to before she finally woke up. That's why I'm here too. I heard Lisa's stories and I related. Song, Firework by Katy Perry. I also wanted to get the word out about just how prevalent and insidious a problem NPD really is. The world doesn't seem to take it as seriously as it should. Just look at the abuse Kanye was inflicting on Kim Kardashian right in front of God and everyone. People are laughing it off as being ridiculous and comical. It isn't funny. It is narcissistic abuse on full display, and it is vile and disgusting. We need to stop these monsters from damaging other people. This shit must end. I am hopeful this book will be help at just the right time for those who need it. I hope you feel that you found someone who speaks your language because, let's face it, this isn't fine literature. I'm not a professional writer. I'm a former accountant and horse trainer who has lived through some shit. I write the way I speak, and I know my tribe will appreciate that. It's the tribe I've been looking for, and I love you guys already. All of this happened between July 2019 and January 2022. It's been a lot in 3 years. Don't forget, a pandemic happened somewhere in there too. It's been a little bit overwhelming. And yet, I'm thankful for it being at warp speed. I hate wasting time, and I'm all for brutal honesty. Warp speed is actually right up my alley. Give it to me all at once. Let me feel it all at once. Experience that kind of internal ripping apart pain and just get it over with. Rip that Band-Aid off. Today, I am grateful for it all. Even feeling the agony of what rock bottom feels like. I got to experience something that not everyone can, and even amidst all that pain, it was beautiful, truly. It is amazing knowing that our human bodies can experience emotions, which essentially are just thought, so intensely throughout the body that you have physical sensations to accompany the pain in your soul. I have gotten to experience the lowest of lows and the highest of highs, and both hold equal beauty in my memory. Each elicits an emotional response even now, remembering them. Like a fond flashback of how deeply this silly heart of mine loves, or just how much permission I give myself to feel, to be excited and joyous daily about the trees, the skies, my life. I am so grateful every day. I get to experience all that being a human has to offer without leaving my own home. I am finally awake. So maybe that's the lesson here. The cost of not being patient is more severe pain in a shortened amount of time. Like a tattoo, a short time span full of suffering and pain in exchange for a lifetime full of beauty. Whatever the reasoning for my accelerated course, I'm using my experiences to share what I've learned, to spread hope, to find my tribe, and to help this planet. We're gonna talk more about my narcs and the bullshit they put me through later. I'm sure other victims will be able to relate to my tales of ridiculousness all too well. Even now, months later, the revelations of my last relationship with narc number 3 keep hitting me like those bright red rubber dodgeballs to the face. Do you hear the bing? I sure do. I feel the sting too. Ugh. Distance from a narcissist is the only thing that will help you to see them clearly. Even when you do get away, they've done such a good job of making you completely doubt yourself that even in your state of newfound clarity, you still question if they really are a narc or not. Many of us question if we, the victim, might be the narc. What kind of crazy self-gaslighting is that? That's the kind of mental fucking with these narcs are doing to people. I equate it with emotional rape. Shortly after leaving, I say to myself, he is a narc, right? Did he know he was doing it? Was it conscious or unconscious? Does he really not see how fucking damaging he was? Or was it just a big game to fool the dumb, weak, big-hearted idiot he could use for as long as possible? I know without a doubt that he is one, though, and I hate that I question myself at all. It means his mind games work. See life lesson number 1, trust your gut. Just remember, narcs are miserable people on the inside. They just get more miserable as they age and realize the truth about themselves, that they will never be happy. They will never be happy because they refuse to change or to see themselves as needing to change because they are never at fault. There's no point arguing with the brick wall. Save yourself and leave ASAP. For the sake of yourself, and especially if you have kids, please don't sacrifice yourself to a black hole. As Lisa says, namaste and walk away. All right, that's 2 in a row. I'm on a roll. Tune in next week for chapter number 3. What is the title of chapter number 3? Let's see if I can find it for you. Signs and a Spiritual Awakening. Thanks for subscribing, y'all.